Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, well, we've looked into Asta. Now it's time for the NUKING support GAUCHE. Yes, Season 2. So, of course, he is 1/3 of the NUKING tactic. If you see my Black Asta video, then I'm sure you guys are aware. But we're going to quickly run through his kit so you guys are aware on what he's doing. So, first things first, with his first attack, or skill 1, should I say. Grants all allies with HP equal to 80% or higher with a weapon enhancement level 1. So that's a increased damage of 30% for your whole squad if they have HP equal to 80% or higher. Now the cool thing about GAUCHE himself is that if you have his skill page, it's the skill 1 that's getting buffed. So if you do have his skill page, then what's going to be happening is that his skill 1, upon landing a crit, applies a dispel damage over time ×2 to all allies. This was, I guess, the first character that could combat against damage over time. Although, I don't know, for me personally, damage over time has never been that big of a deal. But anyway, I mean, it's good to have regardless. So, I mean, it could come in clutch in like future raids, etc. and all that good stuff. Anyway, so that's pretty much the first skill. Now the second skill itself is just a full-on buff. It is single target, so you have to specifically choose an ally, predominantly your highest attacking character. Applies increased all attack level 3 to an ally for 2 turns, so that's a 50% increase on attack and magic attack. Has a 60% chance to grant an ally increased penetration level 2 for 2 turns, which is a 40% on penetration increase. And then grants an ally intense sunlight, which is a non-removable damage increase by 5%, and you can stack up to 3 times, so that's 15% that you can give to your attacking character. Now I would suggest you put time into skill 2, because of course if you look at the buffs, you can increase the penetration rate, or sorry, the chance to actually it being granted by 40%, so altogether that will then be a 100% chance to grant an ally with an increased penetration rate of level 2. And then on level 2 to level 4, increased sunlight damage boost by 2.5%, so that's altogether an additional 5% being added right there. So from a supporting nuking perspective to help your damage characters, skill 2 I would advise to work on. Skill 1 you don't need to, because you're not taking GAUCHE for damage at all. He is just, again, look at GAUCHE as like how you would look at Sally, just a full-on booster for your attacking units. And then the ultimate, once again, it is not an offensive ultimate, it's a buff that it's for your whole team. So uses 10% of your own HP to grant all allies 30% fortify for 2 turns, which is of course reduced damage. Grants all allies increased accuracy level 3, which is by 32%, and then grants all allies damage over time immunity. So burn, poison, all that good stuff, bleed, you won't get affected. Again, ultimate, you might want to put that put some work into the ultimate, because of course you can get an additional 10% fortify buff. So yeah, so rather than it being 30%, you can get an extra 10%, so 40%. So that's something you guys can look into. The combination attack, so performs a combined attack with your partner, dealing damage to an enemy, grants increased crit rate level 5 to your partner, so that's a 30% increase on crit rate, and then has a 50% chance of applying 10% increased stamina to your partner. And then again, if you guys do want to put more work into that, then of course your stamina chance goes up, as well as the value, each being 10% of course. So I mean, it's not too bad in all honesty. So yeah, skill 1 you don't really need to worry about. I mean, the combination attack, you can kind of leave that till last. I mean, I would say keep an eye on, well, skill 2 is going to be more on the offensive manner of things, and then ultimate is going to be more on the defensive side of things, and then the combination is going to be more on the speed side of things. So kind of, yeah, it just kind of depends on how you are looking to build your GAUCHE. I kind of went with the buffing up the damage side. Now, when it comes to his unique passive, which is when you get into LR, of course, grants you HP recovery equal to 15% of your maximum HP when the duration of your buff ends once per wave. And then the LR+2, upon using skill 2, grants a random ally intense sunlight. So pretty much if you use mirror burn, you are going to be applying intense sunlight twice. However, the passive will randomly give an ally an intense sunlight. So you can choose to give your ally an intense sunlight, and the passive will click off, and then you could potentially double up on the intense sunlight on the character that you chose, or it could give it to a random ally. Alright, so that's pretty much how the passive is working. I'll show you guys the Grey Moor, and then we'll get into the character itself. So pretty much the Grey Moor itself at the start of every wave has a 20 to 40% chance to grant damage overtime immunity for 2 turns. If it does not work, it grants poison immunity for 2 turns. So again, that was the big sell point as GAUCHE. DOT immunity is what he's really providing, and then of course from his first skill, if he lands a crit, applies dispel DOT ×2 to all allies. So that's kind of that when it comes to his Greymore. Nothing too crazy. I mean, I know some people don't really care for DOT, but it could help out in the long run at certain situations. Also, I should mention, if you do max him out, basically what happens is that if you use his skill 2 or ultimate, he then applies the sunlight buff to a random ally. So LR +2, if you use the skill 2, then a random ally will get the sunlight buff, and if you max him out, if you use skill 2 or his ultimate, then a random ally gets the sunlight. So when it comes to gear set, this is going to be the main gear set that you realistically want to focus on for GAUCHE. So obviously maximizing the speed, because of course as a supporter and as an attacking buffer, you want him in there as soon as possible, so that way your attackers are already set up beforehand to then obviously clean up potentially turn 1 or whatever, basically do more damage. So of course you want to capitalize on giving him the best speed possible, and then from that you can, I mean, if you want to do defense, that's an option. You can also fit in HP quite comfortably, but make sure he has speed. At the very least, I would say make sure he's got the defense main stat and the magic attack main stat at the very least. Alright, and then if you guys do want to maximize more on it, then of course by all means you can pretty much, again, I would say the main stats would be defense and attack, and magic attack is what you want to keep on. So like with the HP side of things, if I get rid of that, and then it might be okay, yeah, it's all being used. So pretty much this is also another option. Do I have anything? No, I don't. Okay, I'm gonna take it off. I'll take it off faster since I'm not using it right now. Boop, boop. So this will be a nice little fit in, and then obviously that last slot will be something more to do with magic attack. So yeah, just quickly wanted to show you, so you could do something like this. Now when it comes to the substats themselves, obviously realistically what you're kind of looking for is magic attack, defense, HP, damage resistance, endurance. Yeah, I think in that order is kind of what you're looking for. Just basically survivability. I mean, realistically, if you don't want to put, well, yeah, no, what, take off magic attack, defense, HP, damage resistance, and endurance. Survivability is what GAUCHE kind of needs right now, because he's just going to be full on supporting your team with damage boosting, and of course on the ultimate, the defensive side of things, as well as accuracy. So there's that. So survivability is what you need. So defense, HP, damage resistance, endurance. That's kind of the substats on what we're looking for. But when it comes to the main stats, it's going to be defense. I mean, if you want to opt out for the HP, you can do so. But I guess if you want to maximize on actually, you know, filling up all the square, because of course HPs are done in a slight weird way, then magic attack will be nice to have along with defense. But I would say honestly, capitalize on making sure you have a full-on speed gear set for GAUCHE, and then you can either double up on the defense or the HP. It's completely up to you, whichever works, to be honest. But make sure that speed is there. That's what you want. That's what you want. And then when it comes to the talent tree, realistically, let's have a look. Ooh, I mean, it's gonna be, no, you're not gonna really be getting much crit. So I mean, you're gonna have to fall with magic attack and then the crit rate. I mean, yeah, no, so it'll be magic attack and then of course the crit rate buff, so that way, you know, if you do pull his Greymore and you get a crit, then that'll help out with the DOT dispel. So that's going to be the attacking side of things. The defense, you can keep it as per usual, defense plus 20%, and then the 4% on the defense with crit resistance. That's pretty much going to be the case for the, and then for the support, I would say keep damage resistance as well as the SP +1, because of course you do want the consistency there when it comes to being able to have his ultimate a lot sooner than later, I would say. So yeah, that would be the case on what talent trees that you want to have active when using the GAUCHE himself. And then when it comes to the Greymores on what you can use with him, honestly he does have a very good selection. I mean, of course, if you have Williams Greymore, that'll be a nice little option to have. So upon using skill 2, grants an ally with the lowest HP recovery equal to 6 to 10%, of course. Keep in mind the skill 2 for GAUCHE is going to be the skill that you will consistently use, because of course that's where all the buffing comes from, to support the team heavily, especially given that guaranteed 5%. attack boost. But yeah, William's nice. Sally is also picture perfect because again, by using skill 2, you're also now given a 10% increase on all attack. So that's going to be some lovely additional attack boosting right there that you can resort to. And then of course the Valtos and Finrals. So obviously Valtos applies 5 to 20% increased stamina upon using special skill. So this falls within the ultimate, which is pretty nice. And then Finral's one obviously has a 25 to 50% chance for applying 10% increased stamina upon using skill 2. So obviously with that damage boosting, you've got a lovely chance to now increase their stamina, which is actually really handy because of course the damage boost increased stamina, which means they'll get in sooner, and then you can potentially get some Okos going in. I'm actually going to throw in to say Vanessa. Vanessa's more like on the defensive side because with Vanessa's one, it applies 20 to 40% increased damage resistance to an ally with the lowest HP for 1 turn upon using skill 2. So yeah, more on the defensive side of things. Can't knock that at all, but I will say there's a decent variety for the support Greymores on what you can choose from. And I also throw this into the mix, so Moonlight Necklace, so you can of course get your increase on the debuff as well as obviously increase healing to yourself. So this would be actually picture perfect, right? Especially with the passive of the healing. So yeah, Moonlight Necklace is actually not to be slept on too, so that's a nice one to have. But I think for the most part, wait, is Gift So's nice? Grants 5 to 10% increase HP recovery received and 5% increase max HP silver. I mean, yeah, that's not too bad either. That could actually work low-key, I'm not going to cap. So yeah, pretty much that's the gist on obviously some of the Greymores that you guys can choose from, depending on which one you have, of course. Realistically, obviously, if you have Gauches, use it, right? Well, to be honest, if you have Sally's, throw that in there. Maximize on that damage, if I'm being honest. I think that's what I do. I need to double check, because if I'm not doing that, I really should. Anyway, yeah, so that's the Greymores on what you can choose from. So yeah, that's pretty much going to be the initial build for Gauche himself. So we're just gonna, well, we're gonna nuke right now. So obviously with him being a blue typing, he's gonna be a very nice character. So straight off the bat, it's gonna be the second skill in which what you're really gonna be just utilizing. So right there with my passive, as you saw, I randomly gave myself the sunlight buff. So that's the LR +2 coming in hand, and again, it's only active on the second skill. If I did have him maxed out, then I can actually use his ultimate to also get the sunlight going off, rather than having to also rely on this skill too. So we'll obviously, I mean, we're focusing on buffing up our attacking unit, so Kyoto of course, and then we can keep that going. I mean, of course, we will now get the ultimate. I mean, I could, if I wanted to, do the first skill, but that weapon enhancement will be available only for 1 turn. So let's fortify so we can. I mean, realistically, what you want to do is do the ultimate, so that way you can tank and then do the weapon enhancement, and then of course by then hopefully you're still above the 80% mark, and then of course you can yeah, buff up your attacking unit. So okay, well, I mean that's you know, that's a prime example right there. We'll go in with the ultimate, and my sunlight should be at the ready, so we'll buff him up. So that's an extra 10% right there. There we go, all the buffs are coming into place now, and then we should be able to tank, and this should be it. So obviously with all the buffs that Gauche has provided me, keep in mind I've done the ultimate, I've got my penetration up, so a lot is being put in place right now with what Gauche is providing, and so there should be a done deal. Ladies and gentlemen, let's nuke our way to victory. Gauche, thank you very much. He's going to be a beautiful character to have, and again, just technically you could say a blue Sally. So essentially what the team comp will be, for anyone who doesn't know, or what people might do, is of course Noelle, when she does come into play, I mean, well, she's going to be releasing, but so this is what people will do if when it comes to nuking. So they'll use their speed to buff up the characters. Gauche will then buff up Noelle, and then Noelle will just come in and absolutely smack, right? Because if you buff up your second skill and you get lucky with the intense sunlight on the passive, then you can really capitalize on giving Noelle that additional buff to then completely Oko. And again, if you do have the 100% penetration, then you don't have to worry about missing that out, and that just kind of makes Noelle even more of a threat. So yeah, I mean, Gauche isn't exactly a PvP unit, but people can set him up in a way to set up AoE nukers to potentially one-shot Oko. So food for thought if you did want to take him over to PvP. I wouldn't advise it, but it's an option. Some people might do this also in a defensive strat too. turn 1 nuke. It really depends if you build up, well, and if you invest on the skill too. So yeah, there you go, that's something to take note of. But anyway, that's pretty much GAUCHE. That's how to build him, and that's how to use him. I mean, it's fairly simple. He's a supporter for the nuking type, but, or for the nuking character, should I say. But yeah, that is the supporter for season